All right, hello everybody.
Hello.
Are you sitting comfortably?
Yes.
Right, so this is the fifth paper that we are looking at this term in, and it's the only one that is hot pressed. The other sorts of papers are called cold pressed because they run over cold rollers or no rollers, depending on how they're created. Whereas this one is definitely hot pressed with hot rollers, which flattens the paper and makes it very, very smooth. So it accepts the paint differently. And for that reason is usually used for more detailed work. You can use it the other way around. I have seen some superb pictures painted on hot press paper using very loose watercolor techniques, but I thought it might be a good idea to try something a little bit more detailed, although it's not my forte and isn't, I think, where most of us want to go anyway. So we'll see. So because we are thinking in terms of detail, I have in fact done a drawing just in outline of what it is I'm trying to do. I'm only going to do the duck, as my husband would refer to it, with a few of these other bits around it to give verisimilitude to the whole event, make it look a little bit more real, although I've never seen one of those colors. That's life. Okay, so we start as normal. I've done this drawing. I'm sorted out for that. Now I have to think what colors I'm going to use if I'm going to use a fairly restricted palette. Well, I don't want to be actually making that orange. It's a lovely bright orange, and I think using a transparent orange as that would be foolish not to do it. The other two colors I have, in fact, I was going to start with a purple, a mauve, ultramarine violet in effect, which is the color I normally use for those things because it's a bluey violet. But in the end, I decided to go for ultramarine blue and alizarin crimson, and using the not rose sienna, yellow ochre as my yellow for the greens and the buds and things. I'm not doing the whole thing. I'm just doing this bit here, if I get that far. Right. Okay. So you start as normal, choosing which color you want to do. I think I'll start with the orange since it's so obviously there, and doesn't require a lot of thought, and will quietly work me into the painting of the picture. You do need to get yourself into something, don't you? Yeah. Right, now that's a good, as you can see, with them on show, that's a good thick paint. It's not going to run anywhere. It's not running down very fast. It is, but not very fast. So it's not too saturated with water. Should give me a good impression of what it is I'm trying to do. So we've got it here. You can use the same idea for brushstrokes as you did with anything else, but you'll notice I'm using a lot less water, and you'll see it's actually sitting on top of the paper much more. The likelihood of getting dry brushwork on this is pretty nil. Again, I'm just not used to painting with this degree of delicacy, so we'll see how we get on. Okay. Now, while that's there, I want to darken it a bit. So I'm going to use a touch of the alizarin crimson, keeping the brush fairly dry, because I think it'll be better. And just it does introduce nicely. This is where you can get these nice effects of color going in without spreading everywhere. It just begins to run just a little bit there, but he's all right. I don't think he's going further than I want him to go. If he did, I would try to push him back a bit. While the paint is very runny, I could take a dry brush and just move it back, but I'm being preternaturally careful for me. This is agony ivy. It might not be dark enough, but we can look at that later. Right. So now we want to look at the top of the bird. We're going to use the alizarin. And if you twist the brush in the paint, why you get holes in your paint, because you're always twisting your brush in them, you collect more paint in the hairs. And it's well, so accuracy, that will do as far as I'm concerned. It would be wonderful if I could see. I haven't brought my reading glasses with me, so I'm practically flying blind here. Again, if you use the side of the brush rather than drawing around the edge, you'll get the it is capable of giving you quite a nice edge. So you can certainly use that. We want to make a very pale mauve, which is going to be interesting. I've got some blue. I'll pick up some of that. Put it in there. Dry the brush. Pick up some clean water. See what that does. It's quite soft, isn't it? Right. Now, if you can't really see, but where I have used less water, it is soaking in quite quickly. Where there's more water around here, it's staying wetter longer. So I'll try this. This might be foolish. I think we're going to get away with it. I'm just leaving a very thin edge between the color I'm putting on, which is very pale, and right, now we want it darker than that. We want it thicker than that. Pick up this. Oh yeah, I'm on a roll. Right. So again, I'm going to use the brush to create the shape. I think I need a bit more blue in there. This is more of a bluey color. But you can, well, you know, if you're painting it at a level of accuracy that I normally don't try, you've got to pay attention to where you're putting the brush. I don't think this is quite dark enough, but we'll see how we get on. We've got quite a nuanced shape, these birds. Right, now I want it a bit darker on the back, so I'll add a bit more blue. A touch more red. Gives me much thicker color. This is where the shadow is down the back. Seems to be. Like that. Right. Now I want a black, which is going to be interesting. Okay. So if we twist the paint in the ultramarine, dry it, pick up as much dry paint as we can from the red. Give me quite a deep purple. I was silly because I used that yellow. That is going to produce mud rather than black. I think I'll cheat. I'll use some of the. This is raw sienna. It's practically the same color as yellow ochre. I just picked up this bad habit of using yellow ochre from Hazel. She uses it a lot right now. That's gone really brown. Too much yellow. So I add the blue. I want a real black for the beak and the eye and the yellow markings, if I can get it. It can go through this dance again, aren't we? Too much of this and not enough of that. You get a brown or a grey or a black, depending on what you're using. If you want a real black, Prussian blue and cadmium red make a delicious black. But I'm not using those colors at the moment. So, you know, it wouldn't be a sin to use them. It's just, oh, we're getting there now. We're getting there. More paint I get. It's only a little piece I want to do, but more paint I get on it. Well, it's sort of black, isn't it? Right now. And you see, he's got little lines here. Really thing around his neck. Right. Some little lines on here. I don't know why they're here. They are. I think they're meant to represent feathers. Right. So by working with fairly thick paint and controlling the brush, you can get a reasonable representation of the duck, my husband would say. Right, okay. So we want to go into these other bits and pieces just to make it look like it's, you know, not perched in the middle of the world, so to speak. So if I take, well, I've gone to the other yellow, haven't I? So, okay, I'll use that yellow, which is raw sienna. Looks like a mucky raw sienna to me. If it is raw sienna. If it isn't raw sienna, I don't recognize it at all. add a bit of blue. Well, we're getting a sort of green out of it. So. Get out my tube of raw sienna and have a look at it. There's two here, you see. And I'm not sure it happens to be two raw siennas or whether that is raw sienna and that's something different. It's not aureolin, which is actually a lemony green. That is lemon. I don't think it's, well, whatever. Whatever it is, I'm using it. Right, that's not really a bright enough green, and I'm not going to get a bright green out of that. I'm very happy with that color. That won't do. Supposing Moses supposes his toes is his roses. Moses supposes his toes is his roses, and supposes erroneously. Do you not know that one? It's Lear, isn't it, Rachel? Edward Lear, isn't it? A. Milne. No, it's from more than that. Yes. No, it is actually a poem created by someone like Edward Lear or A. Milne or one of that lot, you know. If you Google it, you'll find out. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm not going to get a decent green out of the colors I have chosen. Ergo, I'm going to change my mind and use a different color. I use that blue. If I want a nice green, I could just use green, couldn't I? Yeah. Yeah. Right, okay. Let's mop up all these abortive efforts. Okay. Now, if you want a bright green, you use cool colors. Cool blue, anybody? Prussian, well done. That's not that cobalt. This is Prussian. I like Prussian blue. I've come to it in my old age, you know. I used to be frightened of it because it's such a fierce color. You know, just show the brush the Prussian blue and it floods everything. And then yellow. Yes, I'm going to put a yellow with it. And the yellow I am going to choose is, I wonder if that is, after all. That's a green. It's a mucky color. Well, it's not the right green. It's. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. But there's a sort of. I don't know. It depends on who your teacher is. Some people say that using a made-up green is so terrible. No, you've got to use blue and. Well, you can use lemon and black. That makes a nice green too. But generally speaking, it's blue and green, blue and yellow. But I come from oil painting where I just use green, modify it. You know? So anyway, we'll quit chatting and see if this is going to make a nice green. Oh, that's a nice green. Yes, I'm happy with that green. Okay, so there's a leaf here. The other thing this paper does is very often leaves the brush stroke showing, which actually is quite nice. Oops, where are we? Prussian blue. And that one. That's how it gets dirty because I kept mixing it. Yeah, That's nice, yes. That's a good piece of ivy here. And when I was drawing it, there was a big leaf here too. And again, if you bring the brush to a point, you get quite nice shapes to it. Okay, so that's that one. And then there's, if I add a bit more yellow to that, the yellow I'm using is Indian yellow. Indian yellow, yes, it's a bright yellow, see, it's even brighter. These are practically yellow, so I'm going to use just the yellow, I think. I'm going to use that yellow to make these, not with that brush, you're not. There's a stem there. It's got a stem. I'll put it, it's here. I'll go back to the other one. Bring the paint to the bottom. Let gravity do the job for you, you see. If you make your shape, and then let gravity pull the paint to the bottom, the paint will be heavier there, therefore darker. You get your shadow without working for it too hard. Right, now those little doofer things are much darker, so I'll use some of this. Right, well, there is a branch for it to sit on. If I put that in, that might, it's got to go somewhere, hasn't it? Where would this branch go, I wonder? Oh, I'll have to start putting his legs in, and I have no idea what his legs are for. Okay, so, and I can fiddle with the leaves. I can put veins in and that kind of thing, just to. Right. Yeah. So it's just a little fella. Now, one of the things I might consider doing, because that is so pale, I could put in a background color just around this area here, just enough to bring that out. And the thing you've got to think about is what color that's going to be. So what happens if I? No, that would do it. Okay. I want it, and one of the reasons for doing this is to show you what it looks like when it's fairly wet. This is going to be pretty soggy. I want it quite pale. I just want it to say there's something here. I don't want it to take over the picture. So it's dry, number one. Okay, so it's not going to bleed. I bring the color down there and just whisk it away into the, now. If you were working on Bockingford and all the rest of it, that would just whisk away beautifully and fade into the background. It's not going to do it, this paper. So I've dried the brush, taken up clean water, dried the brush. The brush is clean. I'm just going to see if I can take it out any further. It practically pretty well. Yeah, pretty well. That just gives you the idea of the sorry. So it just makes that bit come forward. You could, if you like, add a little bit in there, but it's not necessary. Just to. just to make it part of the picture sort of thing. It just doesn't. It just just sits there looking ugly, you know. Which is why you have to really be precise with your movements when you're painting on this paper. Because if you try to be, you know, too throwaway, it just sits there and looks at you. And if you're using it on rough paper, it's much more forgiving when you make the gesture. It sort of makes it works all right. If you don't get it right, it is.
I'm really into the idea of faithfully represent a bird or a flower. How much time then?
Oh, ages and ages and ages. If you're doing a botanical study, you know, if you open a book with botanical pictures in it, even if they're coloured, every last mortal dot and tittle is there, and it takes an awful lot of observation as well as painting skill to achieve that level of finish. But using this paper helps you. Whereas if you were using a rough paper, it would hinder you because it would keep sending a bump where you didn't want it and a valley where you didn't want it. So you wouldn't have the same precise control that you have with this. When you're painting a watercolor on rough paper, it isn't control you're after, it's movement or lightness or some other aspect. But this paper is great for precision work, either with pencil or with watercolor pencils, work fine for that. Or again, with actual watercolor under a controlled and careful and well-observed environment, which, as I say, is not my milieu. So I'm showing you the paper. I'm making a fair shot at what we're trying to do, but really, I'm not the one to tell you how to use it. But
it does makes you realize how careful those
artists, yes, 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 and Thornbird.
I just
Yes, because of the amount, and also the other thing to know, the whole purpose of this particular set of lessons was to give you a chance to look at different papers and see what they could do for your style of painting. And then if you find there's one you like, well, you know, focus on that one. But don't eschew the others. Have a go now and again, return and have a look and see if your new ways of painting, because you're more skillful, will be better served by a different paper. So don't get stuck on one, but do know that the others are there. But you can, once you feel I'm there with this one, I'm going to continue with this one until I get a better painter, to be a better painter. And you might stay with that for always, or you know, branch out into other paintings, or you might suddenly develop a passion for using pencil and sort of work with this kind of thing. So it's entirely up to you. Watercolor pencil. This is on a sketch pad. That's done in watercolor pencil. I'll show it to you all in a minute. There, see, that's done in watercolor pencil. So you put the pencil on first, and then you take water over the various areas. And then you can work again on top of it in pencil if you want to add texture to it. Yeah. Right, well, I think I've finished actually. Rachel, I don't think I want to do any more to that. I've given you the basic idea of what's available. So go thou and do likewise. Well, at any rate, have a go.
Okay.